Hey, Happy New Year. We're back talking about a bunch of baseball. If you like these type of videos, you can check out the live stream Mayday. I do it every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And brand new podcast just dropped. If you like hearing stories from baseball players about baseball and about their journey to the major leagues, check out Cut on the Diamond anywhere you listen to podcast. Episode 1 is now available.
Let's talk about Tarik Skubal and a phrase that I'm coining, the Cy Young equation. Tarik Skubal, if you don't know, was last year, 2024's AL Cy Young Award winner. And I'm fascinated about what indicators point to someone possibly winning the Cy Young. And I think there's a few things that you see in statistics that maybe you guys haven't thought about, and it's a little bit of a deeper dive. And I'm going to tell you about some pitching metrics that you could check in if you want to predict who the next Cy Young is. Maybe if you're doing your fantasy team and you're like, who could be the next guy based on what's going on. So what does every Cy Young winner, almost all of them, with the exception of a few, like Rick Porcello, it's a combination of command and stuff. You hear everyone say stuff. He's got great stuff. You see his stuff, it's stuffy as stuff. It's stuff in this stuff in my mouth. What?
Brother,
Imagine stuff is Nolan Ryan and command is Greg Maddux. But what if you put Greg Maddux and Nolan Ryan together? You get Pedro, right? You get prime Pedro. That's what I'm talking about. When I say command, I don't mean control, okay? Control is your ability to throw a strike when you need to throw a strike. That means throw it in the box. That's control. Command is precision within the box or out of the box. If you're trying to go out of the box, it's precision. So it's even smaller, shrinks it down. You stay along the edges. You don't throw it down the middle a lot. You have better command. Command is like the next level to control, if that makes sense. So think about it that way, because Cy Young Award winners have elite command. They also have great stuff. Stuff, the ability to miss bats, the way your pitches move, your deception will be part of it, and velocity. Okay, all of those things factor into stuff. Eno Saris does a great stat here on Fangraphs called Stuff Plus. If you want to just find each pitch and how they rate out, he does a lot of this calculation for you, or you can just go look at each one of these things individually. For example, I had whiff rate, in zone whiff rate, meaning how often are they swinging and miss in the strike zone. Chase percent, how often do you get guys to think it's a strike and then it isn't and you swing at it. Average exit velos, when you do hit the ball, how hard does it hit? Barrel percent, same thing. Vertical horizontal movement factors in extension and velocity. So I look at those things when I'm looking for really good pitchers. For command, I look at stuff like first pitch strikes. How often do you get ahead? In zone percentage. How often are you in the strike zone? There's a statistic called paint, which is how often are you within 2 inches in or out of the edge of the zone. That's called a paint. Competitive location. If you drew a circle from the middle of the strike zone, a big circle, if you're in the circle, it's a competitive pitch. If you're out of it, it's not a competitive pitch. So you want a high percentage of competitive pitches, because the more you throw that aren't competitive, the chances that it's swung at or anything happens other than them being a horrible ball are low. For example, in 2023, Ken Waldichuk had the worst competitive location percentage in the first half in the league. Like, it was like 70%. He was throwing ball one and it was nowhere close to the strike zone. But I told him and he figured it out and he pitched way better down the stretch. And then I also have walk percentage in here too, because if someone's like, I'm not walking this guy, and just comes back and throws it over the plate, it's great. So if a guy is in the top of the league in all of these categories, which many of them you can see here, right? It's barrel percent here, whiff percent here, chase percent here, all this. And this is percentage of the league. Kind of like when you have a baby and you ask him what percentage is his head. And he's like, oh, he's 99% across the board. He's the 99th percentile of all babies. Good luck carrying him around. That was hypothetical. That's not how big my baby is. You're noticing, Tarik, pretty good. Pretty good. Most of these things pretty dang good. So that's a good indicator. That means you're nasty. If you looked up Sale, he's up there and everything too. But the thing that Tarik Skubal did, which I can't show you because I don't have my true media, he was in top 5 in most of these command spots. Number 1 in competitive location. He never had any misfires. That's a big deal. Whiff rate in the zone, he's like 3rd in the league. So when he was throwing strikes and they were still being swung and missed at, all of his pitches had 30% whiff rate or higher. So basically, he has the nastiest pitches and he throws them where he wants. The other 4 guys in the top of the league, like Merrill Kelly, Zach Eflin, Jameson Taillon, like command guys. 4 command guys and Tarik Skubal. So like the average fastball of the other 4 guys was like 92. And Tarik Skubal's average fastball was 97. So if I saw this halfway through the season, I'm like, he's winning the Cy Young if he keeps this up. So if you want to predict the next Cy Young winner, there's two things you look for. So sometimes a command guy can win, a guy who's really good, has really good command already, and then he develops a pitch that gets him into the next level stuff-wise. So let's use Kyle Hendricks as an example. He is a command guy. Stuff is not a word used when describing Kyle Hendricks. He has to be pinpoint in order to be successful. But imagine if Kyle Hendricks threw 97. Now he's the greatest pitcher ever. So learning stuff is a little harder than learning command. So what I look for is guys with really great stuff who have a lot of these other metrics, a really high whiff rate. When it's in the strike zone, it's still swung and missed at, really low barrel rate, pretty good ground ball rate. Competitive location is not great, but it's improving. Like if you just improve these command stats, you go from being pretty good and inconsistent to nails. Now, that seems obvious, right? But statistically, you can see trends. You can go and look and guys, oh, this has increased every single year. His competitive location has increased every single year. His whiff rate in the zone, his first pitch strike rate, all of this stuff has increased every single year. He is due for getting to these elite levels so that stuff plays into a Cy Young type year, which is exactly what happened with Tarek Skubal. His command wasn't great at the beginning of his career. Now it's great. To get a good idea of who might win a Cy Young or understand why Cy Youngs happen and why dominance happens, it almost always is predicated on these statistics. I'll say them again. First pitch strikes, in zone percentage, paint. That's a stat on True Media. So I believe it's called Edge on Savant or Fangraphs. There's another one called Edge. It's very similar. But yes, it's called Edge. Grow up. Competitive location. I think competitive location is so wildly important and it's never talked about. And that's the one I key on a lot and no one else seems to care about. But I do, because misfires are zero value pitches. And if you don't misfire ever, a hitter knows that. He's like, this is going to be hittable probably every time you throw it. But if you're out there going flailing around, the misfires look way different from the non-misfires, and now you're easier to hit. And then walk percentage, obviously. You can't walk 15% of the guys you face and win a Cy Young because they're going to score. You're going to give up home runs or whatever. So if you don't let guys get on base for free and you command the ball more, you're going to be Tarek Skubal and you're going to win the Cy Young. Now, you guys want to check really quickly on the difference between this gentleman and Chris Sale, because I will add him in real quick. Now, arguably, Chris Sale has better stuff than Tarek Skubal. He's higher chase rates, higher whiff rates, higher K rates. All these stuffs are a little bit higher, but he's only in the top 50 in competitive location because of the way his pitches are and the way he gets chases. He would throw some misfires and the way his mechanics work, right? And he's getting a little older. So there's an element of the flailing and stuff that is going to cause more misfires. So he was still pretty good on competitive location. He was still pretty good on paint, but he wasn't great in zone percentage. I remember he's bottom half, but first pitch strikes were good. So like basically he got ahead really well and then he just got guys to chase. Now that can work. You can win a Cy Young if you strike out that many guys, but what if you start tipping one day? Or what if you run into a team that doesn't strike out a few times in a row and then you start walking guys and then you have a couple clunkers. Now suddenly you're not in Cy Young. See, like I think Tarek Skubal was more of a complete, he ran away with it. Sale was a little bit more like, I think it was a little closer just because of some of those things. So if you really want to like guarantee it, be like Tarek.